the phases that you need to go through to develop your project. A lot of students start about ideas, but when it comes to taking the step-by-step process to be able to deliver the project, a lot of students find difficulties in delivering those projects. So what I'm gonna present today is the process that you need to go through to have a successful project. The objective is to have all of you successfully develop projects for this course. Today's objective is, first of all, define the design phases of an embedded system, and then we're gonna talk about the parameters that you need to consider in each phase of the design, and then how to use the process to develop an embedded system project. Okay, so the next question is, what are the basic steps that you need to take to deliver a successful project? Okay. At your opinion, how would you go by develop your project? Anybody? How are you going to go by develop and have a successful project? What do you have in mind?
Formalize a plan.
Excuse me?
Formalize a plan.
Formalize a plan, okay? And then execute the plan.
Yes.
Okay. So what is that plan? Is what we're gonna talk about today. Okay, so the plan goes through several steps. The first step is the requirement. And the requirement is basically what the project is intended to do. And your proposal is basically a requirement. So in this case, we allowed you to come up with the requirements that you think you can implement. After you define your requirement, you need to come up with what we call specifications of the project. Once you define your specification, you design or you come up with an architecture of the project. And so once the architecture is designed, you start implementing the components of the project. Implementing that means developing the code, or putting the pieces together, or designing or putting the components of the circuits together from the software and hardware point of view. Once you implement different components, then you put those blocks together that we call system integration. For instance, you're gonna have a keypad, you're gonna have LCD, motor driver, and then you have to put the system together so you can have unique or unified functionality. In general, when you are in engineering firm, you need to think about what we call manufacturing, so you can develop the project, or you should be able to manufacture the project and sell it outside. So there is a handoff to manufacturing. So let's talk about requirements. So what is a requirement? Anybody can suggest?
Using the microcontroller?
Excuse me?
Using the microcontroller?
What is a requirement in general? Using microcontroller, for
Something
instance.
that you need to complete the project. Something that you need.
Something that you need to complete the project successfully. Any other opinion? Requirement?
Can't not do it.
You cannot do it. Something that you need to avoid.
No, something you need to do. Like it's a requirement of the project.
Oh, you cannot do a project without it. Is that what you meant? Okay. Well, including those, basically the project, the requirement is any features or any inputs that will affect the development of the project. And that will be basically dependent on the idea that you're gonna develop, right? So if I'm gonna develop an iPhone, the requirement for that would be different if you're developing a laptop, right? So basically, given the proposal, the requirement would be all the feature list, all the parameters that will affect that project. Those are requirements. Now, so you first think what the system intends to do. What is the purpose of developing this project, this system? That's the first thing that you need to answer. Then what it needs to meet. For instance, you can have as a requirement the user should be able to enter a password, or the user should be able to enter a password at the same time view the status of certain LEDs or something like that. So you have to have certain needs that need to be met. What features should include? For instance, you need to have a GUI, right? You can have a customer that says, oh, I need to have some graphic representation, or I need to have just some text, right? So the requirement really will drive how you're gonna design the system, right? If I say I need some graphics, then the LED or the LCD that I'm gonna select will be defined by the requirement of that graphic, right? So what is the definition of that graphic? How many pixels does it have, right? So if I'm gonna do only text, then you think about probably only the lines, or how many lines are we going to have and stuff like that. So the requirements can be developed in several ways. One of the way that you're already doing is basically doing it yourself. You come up with an idea, with a need that you think is there. Another way is you can take directly from a customer. If you're in the business of developing, for instance, phones, then, for instance, Ericsson will talk to AT&T and tell them, by the way, what do you need? What kind of feature are you looking for? So you're kind of consulting with your customer in terms of the features that are needed. If you're doing consulting, for instance, you're gonna have a customer who will tell you exactly what are the requirements needed. Sometimes you take the marketing department will go and find